Hey everyone, welcome back to the Vikings Central podcast. I got a special guest with us today, Dustin. You probably know him from Twitter, at that Vikings fan 8 on Twitter. Very active on Twitter there. Me and him, we go back and forth on Twitter sometimes. This is our first time meeting here, and we've probably been, on Twitter together and going back and forth a little bit for the last few years for sure. So hey, great to meet you, man. Can't wait to get this started.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, and
Yeah.
I think we'll have a great time on here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you think of that Super Bowl last night? Nice to, Kevin O'Connell going to be the new head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. That's exciting. Were you
Yeah,
kind of rooting for the Rams, or were you kind of going for the Bengals?
I was definitely rooting for the Rams because we got to get our future head coach that ring.
Yeah,
He can bring that ring to Minnesota, and then
for sure.
finally get Minnesota a ring too.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's the plan, right? It's awesome that he's going to have that experience. Have these ideas that got him to where they went. Obviously Cooper Kupp had a great game last night, um, and Kevin O'Connell does all those play designs for the Rams, and everyone's asking, how does Cooper Kupp get so wide open all the time? It's just crazy the play designs that guy comes up with, and obviously the injury to Odell Beckham Jr. seemed to make a difference, but they still got things going in the second half as well.
Yeah. Once Kevin O'Connell comes over to Minnesota, you can, everybody's been talking about it how, the Cooper Cup role and the tight ends are doing well in that Rams offense. You
Yeah,
implement that to Minnesota,
sure.
Justin Jefferson in that Cooper Cup role, he's going to be outstanding again for the third year.
Yeah,
Um, once Irv Smith comes back, and then maybe Tyler Conklin, who knows what's
right.
with him, but our tight ends are going to have a good season as well.
For sure.
Um, they're definitely getting the most, I think, out of Matthew Stafford, for
Yeah.
what he has left. So
Yep.
um, I think they'll get the most out of Kirk Cousins as well in that
Yeah.
offense.
No, I agree. I agree. I was thinking all last night. I'm like, Justin Jefferson watching this. I bet he's just drooling at all these targets and all these. It's not going to be a run first offense anymore. We're still going to implement Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison, Kane Nwangu out of the backfield. I mean, we got to use all of our weapons, but they're going to spread the football around and get the ball downfield, and it's going to be a good change of pace. From going from Mike Zimmer over to Kevin O'Connell. It's just going to be a huge difference in my opinion.
Yeah, the runs on third and 15, I don't think are no longer going to be
No.
a focal point anymore. So
Right.
excited
Yeah.
about that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And the topic we kind of wanted to talk about today is what direction we think the Minnesota Vikings should go in 2022 and beyond. There's questions about, is Kirk Cousins going to get traded? Are they going to restructure him? With all the weapons around, we got Justin Jefferson, we got Adam Thielen, we got KJ Osborne, we got Irv Smith Jr. coming back healthy. Can we re-sign Tyler Conklin? And then you got Delvin Cook, Alexander Madison, Nwangu coming out of the backfield. I, in my opinion, I think this offense is too good to go into rebuild mode. What do you think, Dustin?
Yeah, the way that you said it, they're too good to be rebuilding.
Yeah,
I don't think Kevin O'Connell, as a Super Bowl winner, would want to come over and rebuild the Vikings. I know maybe he
right,
would, but to
right.
me, I don't see that happening. I mean, they're way too talented, too many stars to get rid of or to trade or whatnot. Everybody on Twitter is saying, trade him, but if we trade everybody, we're not going to have a team anymore. And
Right.
the NFC North is wide open right now.
It is.
Um, depending on if Aaron Rodgers leaves or stays.
Right.
So why not take advantage of that? NFC's looking, a little shaky, especially with all the quarterback, musical chairs that we're gonna have.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good time to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. And I had that jotted down in my notes. No Tom Brady in Tampa Bay anymore. I mean, he may come back, but as of now, no Tom Brady, retired. So Tampa Bay is looking, for a quarterback. Then Jimmy Garoppolo's going to get traded, and he's not a great quarterback, but San Francisco, I mean, no one knows how good Trey Lance is going to be or what they're going to do there. And then you got no Drew Brees from last year. The Saints missed the playoffs. They're still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. And then even Kyler Murray in Arizona, there's been some tension there. There's so many question marks all over the NFC. You know, Kirk Cousins is probably honestly a top 5 quarterback in the NFC right now. And
Yeah.
people can say, oh, he doesn't show up on big games and everything like that. Well, Mike Zimmer's been your head coach the whole time you've been in Minnesota. Give this guy a chance with the offensive, young, creative-minded offensive head coach, and I think he's going to have a terrific year. And I know me and you agree on that aspect. We think Kirk Cousins is pretty underrated. He gets a lot of heat that he doesn't deserve. But yeah, I totally agree with you that the NFC is wide open. Why go into rebuild mode now? You know what I mean?
Right. And though another thing is, cap situation, that can all be, figured out as well. It doesn't have to be just shipping Kirk out. You look at Daniil Hunter, sure, he's been injured, but he's going to look for another deal as well. So, you can always, give him an extension or whatnot. I don't know all the details for that, but you look at Harrison Smith, Adam Thielen, aging players that you can cut their cap a little bit and kind of help out the team that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think the defensive side of the ball is the way bigger question at this point. Kirk Cousins is on a $45 million contract, but if they do plan on keeping him, they'll restructure that and get that cap number down, just like they did a few years ago with his contract. Like you said, Harrison Smith. What are we going to do there? Eric Kendricks, Daniil Hunter. There's a lot of question marks on that side of football. Anthony Barr is a free agent. He's probably not going to come back. We are probably going to be moving to a 3-4 defense, so he kind of thrive in that situation. But how much does he want in free agency, money-wise? We do have some young guys on the defensive end of the ball. We got some unknown defensive ends: Patrick Jones, Janarius Robinson. Cam Bynum was a really good safety there for a few weeks. Coming into the draft, do you think they're going to focus more on the defense side of the ball? Are they going to look to add more weapons offensively or add to the offensive line? What are you kind of looking at there?
For me, I think defense is where you should be looking. Offense, you look at our depth. I think it's all right, depending on who stays, who goes, stuff like that. But wide receiver depth, you can always find a good wide receiver in free agency, I think.
Yeah.
But for defense, I think there's a lot of good defensive players in this draft.
Sure.
And if we do move to a 3-4 defense, we're going to need some more linebackers for sure.
Yeah.
Our linebacker depth is not very good. And then, maybe I think corner is definitely a top priority. And then I think your second option is, I think, somewhere along the D-line, defensive end or something like that, or some sort of pass rusher.
No, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. Like you said, cornerback. I feel like Mike Zimmer took a cornerback high up in the draft like every year, and for some reason we're still looking for a starting corner. So as much as you can say Mike Zimmer is his defensive back guru, we're still in kind of a situation where we need secondary players. And like you said, you made a great point about the 3-4 defense. We're going to need some linebackers to be able to rush the passer standing up, coming off the edge. Eric Kendricks can still play in the middle, but is 30 years old. So we got to kind of look at what we're going to do there. But draft time is always a fun time of the year. And like you said before about the wide receivers, you can always add a wide receiver, but you got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, where he might have to worry about his cap situation too. I hope they can figure that out, but I think Adam probably wants to stay in Minnesota, probably finish his career out here. And then you got KJ Osborne and then Amir Smith, Marset. Do you think we need to add any more deep threats, or do you think Amir Smith and Marset can take that next level next year to be that deep guy down the field? I mean, obviously Justin Jefferson can play all over the place, but they're going to be focusing on Jefferson, so that we're going to need someone to take the top off the defense. Do you think Smith Marset can do that next year in that role?
I do think he can, only because we are retaining our wide receivers coach. I can't think of his name right now. It's on the tip of
Keenan
my tongue.
McCardell. Yeah.
Yep.
Keenan McCardell.
I
Yep.
knew that, but
Yeah.
yeah, but you look at KJ Osborne without Keenan McCardell. We thought KJ Osborne was a nobody, a bust,
Yeah.
whatever he was.
Yep.
When he came in, he turned KJ Osborne around. He made him a legit, third receiver, this past season. Not that Amir was nothing, but I think he can take him to, the next step and, make him a good depth piece as well. So
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I love the point about KJ Osborne. I didn't even know if he had a catch his rookie year, to be honest with you. And
I
then
don't think so.
in his second year, 50 catches, almost 700 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns, which was third on the team, obviously behind two studs, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. That's nothing to shake your head at.
Right.
Those are really good numbers, especially for a wide receiver three that we haven't had for a long time. Obviously since Jarius Wright back in probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We've been looking for that third guy. But I think a big part of this offense too, like you said with Kevin O'Connell, they really like to utilize their tight ends. Irv Smith Jr., we're hoping and praying that he comes back healthy and that he can play a full schedule. But I think even behind Irv Smith Jr., do you think the Vikings should look to keep Tyler Conklin, or do we don't know how big his payday is going to be in free agency because he had a good year as well. But do you think a second tight end is important in this offense with Kevin O'Connell?
I definitely do think he would be an important piece, depending on how much he wants to get paid. If he thinks he's a legit, number one tight end somewhere, I would say, let him go. But obviously, I would
Right.
love to keep Tyler Conklin.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is ready yet to, thrive on another team. I think,
Sure.
if Irv Smith does, fizzle out, within the season next year, an injury or whatnot, I think Tyler Conklin would be a good, tight end one in that situation then, like he was this past year.
Sure.
But I do think that a third tight end would be vital as well, just in case,
Yeah.
Tyler does go, Tyler gets hurt, anything
Right.
like that. We got a third
Right.
option to step up.
Sure, sure, and I think Irv Smith Jr. and Tyler Conklin are like the perfect mix. Irv's that athletic, speedy guy who can get split out wide and play that wide receiver role, where Tyler Conklin can kind of move the sticks, but he's more of that good hands guy, not
Good
much run
possession.
after the catch. Yeah, exactly. Put that possession catch receiver down in the red zone. I think he had 6 touchdowns, this year as well, and I think they're all in the red zone. So,
Yeah.
it's nice to have Adam Thielen, who is all over the red zone, and then Tyler Conklin was doing well in that area as well. But moving back to the defensive side of the ball with Daniil Hunter in that situation, 2020 he had that neck injury. He missed pretty much the whole year. Or did miss the whole year. Had surgery. Looked like he was back to himself. 2021 looked like the neck was no issue at all, and then he tore his pec. About halfway through the year.
Mhm.
Obviously, we want to keep a guy of that caliber on our team, but there has been rumors, there has been rumblings about teams like in the top 15 maybe looking to trade for a defensive end. If someone is willing to give up, a top half of the first round draft pick, would you be looking at that kind of looking, into the future? I know Daniil Hunter's in his prime, but would you be willing to trade Daniil Hunter for a first round draft pick if it's in that top 15 area?
I'm not saying to keep everybody, but I think Daniil Hunter is one of those players that you almost have to keep.
Yeah, sure,
just
sure.
just because he is, one of those great game changers.
Yeah.
His neck injury and his pectoral injury were two different, injuries that were,
Exactly.
unfortunate. So,
Yep.
if we are worried about him staying healthy, I think another team would have to be worried about him staying healthy as well.
Right. Right.
But I think for us, the question is, how much do we pay him? It nobody knows at this point. Does he sign a contract extension? Does he, just stay put?
Right.
But if we do decide to trade him, I think you don't take anything less than a first,
Right.
or the least is maybe a second or third. So
Yeah. No. No, I agree. And he is due like a $26 million. I don't know what you call it, but he's due $26 million this upcoming year. So he could be kind of like that Kirk Cousins, where they're going to be looking to restructure, maybe give him more money, upfront signing bonus to kind of relieve the cap, where he's still making a good amount of money. But like we said, we have all these weapons on offense. We don't really want to rebuild, right? We have all these
right,
weapons on offense. So if we're not looking to rebuild, why would we trade Daniil Hunter, at that point? I think we kind of build with him on the defensive side of the ball, keep Daniil around, and then put playmakers around him.
yep,
So if we keep defensive end Daniil Hunter, there's going to be other areas that we're going to have to kind of cut loose, like you said, Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks. If you had to choose between Eric Kendricks or Harrison Smith, which one would you want to keep on the Vikings?
um, I mean, I love Harrison Smith. I love Eric Kendricks. But just because of age and stuff like that, I think Harrison Smith is just losing a step. Recently
Yeah,
he's just kind of
sure.
getting slower every year. He's not that hard hitting safety anymore, just because of
Right.
NFL rule changes, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Eric Kendricks is your I guess you would say your third cornerback. He's a great
Yeah.
coverage linebacker.
Yeah.
Um, he's good at stopping the run as well. So I think we got a great replacement if we had to in Cam Bynum.
Sure. Yeah.
Whether he plays Harrison's position or if he fills in for Xavier Woods' position as well. So
Right.
that I short answer I guess is I'd rather keep Eric Kendricks. So
And I agree with that. And I agree with that. Eric Hendricks, like you said, one of the best cover linebackers in all the NFL. I think it was a year or two ago where we were playing Green Bay and Devontae Adams pretty much just shot right down the field, and Eric Kendricks was step for step with him.
oh yeah,
You can't really replace that. I think in today's NFL, safety is way easier to replace than a middle linebacker. And like you had
hmm
mentioned before, Cam Bynum, he could kind of fill that role, and the few games that he played last year, he showed so much potential. He intercepted Lamar Jackson, and the guy is just so smart. He knows how to read offenses, and I think he can kind of play that downhill safety where you can put him in the box sometimes, or kind of disguise the defense a little bit.
yep,
And I think with Ed Donatell coming in as defense coordinator, they run a 3-4, but they like to put in all these different packages, all these different disguises, and I think Cam Bynum would be perfect in that situation. And Eric Kendricks is 30 years old. You can say he's getting old, but I think he still has a few good years left in him,
oh yeah.
um, for sure. All right, going back to Kirk Cousins. This is always the hot topic. It's always the hot topic on Twitter and everywhere. It's always the hot topic. Kirk Cousins. Everyone likes to talk about him.
Yep.
So, people are saying, oh, that they're looking to up his trade value. Oh, they're setting smoke screens trying to up his trade value. And there was rumors last year that the Rams were looking to trade for a veteran quarterback, and they ended up with Matthew Stafford. But they're also looking to maybe trade for Kirk Cousins. Don't you think there was conversations in that room where Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell were looking for a veteran quarterback, and the two names that popped up were Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins. So isn't it interesting that Kevin O'Connell accepts a coaching position with Minnesota, whose quarterback is Kirk Cousins?
Yeah,
So Yeah,
It's it's
it's interesting. Why why would they want to trade for Kirk Cousins last year, and then Kevin O'Connell comes here, and people are thinking they want to get rid of him right away. What do you kind of look at? How do you look at that?
I think for Kevin O'Connell, I think it's not a. I guess it is a dream come true. You get the quarterback that, one of the quarterbacks that you were thinking about trading for, and
Right.
I think the Rams have a better offense than the Vikings do or did,
Yeah.
or whatnot.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I think he's pretty much copy paste to the Vikings. Vikings have a top 10 offense as well,
Sure.
just like with the Rams, top 5.
Yeah.
So he's really not missing too much. He's getting his veteran quarterback. You're getting a young stud wide receiver. You're getting a veteran wide receiver who knows how to play the game. Two good, I guess, tight ends as well for that offense. And then, you just got to find the missing pieces for that offensive line, and I think you're pretty much set. So,
Yeah, and that's where I was gonna go next was the offensive line. Obviously, you got two bookends. Christian Darrisaw looked really good his rookie year. He had the injuries right away, and then he got slowly moved in. But then he looked like he was league ready to be that left tackle of the future. And then obviously Brian O'Neill is one of the best right tackles in the entire National Football League. And then Ezra Cleveland showed some promise. He's still, making the transition from left tackle to left guard, but he's showing some promise. But then you don't really want to move forward with Oli Udoh at right guard. And then I think the Garrett Bradbury experiment should be over. Wyatt Davis, he didn't get any playing time last year, and I don't know if that's Mike Zimmer being, hard-headed or whatever. But do you think the Vikings need to look in the draft at a center or a right guard, or do you think they need to look for maybe a veteran, in free agency? What are you kind of looking at there?
For center, I know there's a lot of older, centers being a free agent. I don't know who's all going to be available, but
Right.
Someone that is, I think, 29, 30-ish, would be perfect.
Sure. Yeah.
We just need that anchor for a center, which Garrett Bradbury does not have.
No.
He's a great, run blocker, but pass protection is not his forte. And then right guard, I think Aliudo just needs to look at the door and walk right through that.
Yeah.
Wyatt Davis, I would love to see what he has. At least just play him in the preseason, see what he has.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what there are for guards in this free agency class, but you just gotta. I guess you just gotta play your cards, see what you have,
Right.
and then go from there. Free agency,
Yeah.
I think, is your best bet, though.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I mean, we took Garrett Bradbury in the draft, didn't work out, and then Oli Udoh was kind of a project, and then we signed Mason Cole last year. He was okay. He
Yeah.
was okay, but he was out of the bargain bin. You know what I mean? We didn't pay up for an offensive lineman, and I think that's the reason why Rick Spielman got fired because he didn't pay much attention to the offensive line. So I think you're 100% correct. We need to maybe pay up. I mean, we don't have to overpay or anything like that,
No.
but we need to find an above average center. We haven't had an above average center since John Sullivan, almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
And then obviously Matt Burke was really good in that area as well. But I'd like to see Wyatt Davis, give him another full off season, and I think he'll be okay. But I'm guessing that's going to be right guard. So if we can look at center for sure in free agency, then we'll have a good mixture of veterans and then young players as well. And then if we get that offensive line going, I think the sky's the limit for Kirk Cousins in this offense because I think Kevin O'Connell is going to run a really, really fun offense. And then defensively, I think we have a chance to be good on that end, but I think it's going to take some time defensively. Anything else you want to add to the conversation at all, Dustin? It's kind of short and sweet today, but anything else you wanted to add?
I mean, one more thing with the offensive line, I didn't really appreciate how Mike Zimmer would always, shuffle it up all the time.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't put Wyatt Davis out there. Even
Sure.
they had him at center, I think, at one point. Just for practice. So
Yep.
I don't know. It is kind of weird that way to kind of look at that. I guess it's good to have experience in all 5 positions of the offensive line, but I don't think that's the way to go about it, though.
Yeah, no, and a lot of people preach, especially on the offensive line, they preach continuity.
Yep.
And with Mike Zimmer, there was never any continuity along the offensive line. It was always shuffling. It's hard to play against someone different almost every other Saturday. You wanna know that player's tendencies. You want to just have, like I said before, that continuity. So hopefully we can have 5 guys that just stick together and see if it can work. Yeah, that's a great point, Dustin. I totally understand, and I think Kevin O'Connell, they preach culture, and they even preach continuity within the organization. So hopefully they translate that to the football field. But yeah, again, that's Dustin. Thank you for joining me today, man. I really appreciate it. You can follow him at @VikingsFan8 on Twitter. He's very active on Twitter. Loves to have conversations. So thanks again, man, and hopefully we can continue to do this. It was a fun little episode. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.